Documentos e laptops do segundo homem das Farc, Raul Reyes, foram capturados na selva do Equador quando ele morreu em combate 3 anos atrás. O governo colombiano entregou o material primeiro à Interpol para garantir a autenticidade e depois encaminhou a um dos mais conceituados centros de pesquisa no mundo, o Instituto Internacional de Estudos Estratégicos de Londres, que divulgou agora os resultados de 2 anos de análise. Um dossiê que confirma: o presidente da Venezuela, Hugo Chávez, apoiou a guerrilha colombiana com oferta de dinheiro e pedido de treinamento militar para militantes chavistas venezuelanos. O dossiê registra também que $400 mil foram doados pelas Farc à campanha eleitoral do atual presidente do Equador, Rafael Correa.
O Brasil aparece pouco no dossiê porque a análise se concentra mais em Venezuela e Equador, além, naturalmente, da própria Colômbia.
O Sem Fronteiras de hoje, além de analisar o dossiê, pergunta: qual o destino da luta armada na América Latina? E quais as implicações que a divulgação dos documentos de Raul Reyes tem para os países envolvidos?
Em março de 2008, tropas do exército colombiano atravessaram a fronteira do Equador e surpreenderam do outro lado um grupo das Farc. Entre eles, um dos 7 altos dirigentes da organização clandestina, o líder guerrilheiro Luiz Edgar Devia Silva, nome de guerra Raul Reyes. Ele se encarregava das relações internacionais das Farc, contatos com governos e simpatizantes estrangeiros. Reyes, ou Devia, morreu no confronto com as tropas. Deixou para trás farto material, de cópias em papel a discos de memória de computador e arquivos em 3 laptops, incluindo e-mails trocados com seus chefes e pessoas em vários países.
Why would an experienced guerrilla leader like Reyes, involved in international contact with the organization, why would he leave behind such important information?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Reyes was a bureaucrat in camouflage gear in one sense, and spent a considerable portion of his time actually scolding his subordinates about the need to comply with information security protocols and not do things like cross borders with laptops full of information or send emails without encryption. And yet at the same time, during almost the entirety of the last decade, he was decrypting messages that he was sending and receiving and storing them all on his own computer, totally open. And we ask ourselves, why did this happen? And I think, above all, there was a feeling with him that it wouldn't happen to him. He would not be captured.
Esta foi a matéria-prima que as autoridades colombianas na época chegaram a divulgar em parte, mas esbarraram no grande volume de dados disponíveis, o que dificultava uma análise às pressas para satisfazer a curiosidade imediata da mídia. Os colombianos sabiam que só a análise de uma organização independente garantiria credibilidade.
Um primeiro ponto muito importante: introduz a verdade histórica de uma história recente, que ainda está em transcurso. Tá? Isso, por exemplo, uma coisa muito importante que faz é legitimar profundamente a posição do governo colombiano em toda esta história. É decir, tanto Uribe quanto Santos, que era o ministro da Defensa, o principal operador e decisor de toda a política contra as Farc e a relação com Venezuela, porque isso é importante.
O Sem Fronteiras conversou por telefone com o diplomata venezuelano Edmundo González Urrutia. Ele afirma que parte da população de Caracas acredita se tratar de manipulação, mas que os documentos merecem ser investigados.
Los señalamientos que allí se dicen son muy graves y deberíamos tener, para el beneficio de las poblaciones de ambos países, que esos señalamientos sean aclarados e investigados en profundidad.
O governo colombiano da época enfrentava ainda um grau de descrença da opinião pública, que conhecia suas brigas com a Venezuela e com Hugo Chávez. Já na época, diante das primeiras acusações de seu suposto conluio com as Farc, Hugo Chávez repetia sua ladainha habitual de que tudo não passava de manipulação imperialista americana para desacreditá-lo.
O presidente Uribe é criminal. Não só é que é mentiroso, mafioso, paramilitar, e dirige narcogoverno, e dirige governo lacayo do Império Norte-Americano.
Rafael Correa reagiu de forma semelhante na ocasião, quando seu foco principal de comentário não foi sobre suas supostas ligações com as Farc, e sim a invasão de território equatoriano por tropas colombianas na caça aos guerrilheiros.
Han encontrado 15 cadáveres de guerrilleros, 2 guerrilleras heridas, en un campamento improvisado de la FARC, es decir, un campamento ambulante hecho con plástico solo para pasar la noche, a 2 kilómetros del territorio ecuatoriano, a 2 kilómetros, perdón, dentro del territorio ecuatoriano, a 2 kilómetros de la frontera, a 2 kilómetros del río Putumayo, es decir, no hay cómo equivocarse en que aquello era territorio equatoriano.
O dossiê do Instituto Estratégico agora conclui que Hugo Chávez, embora relutante no início, cedeu o território da Venezuela para as Farc se abrigarem e treinarem venezuelanos. Seria para um possível confronto com supostos invasores americanos e inimigos internos, que, segundo ele, queriam dar-lhe um golpe de Estado. Quanto à ajuda da Venezuela aos guerrilheiros colombianos, o documento diz que Chávez explorou planos de fornecer armas às Farc e teria oferecido $300 milhões à organização. O dossiê não comprova se ele chegou a entregar as armas ou o dinheiro. E o arquivo se encerra 3 anos atrás, com a morte de Reyes.
Did he actually deliver the money to them?
Well, this is one of the peculiar ways in which history unfolds. In November 2007, he offered the money, and he began to discuss very specific ways of making that money available. Various kinds of transactions were considered, and he even involved the government of Belarus in these discussions, and an emissary of President Lukashenko actually came to Venezuela, I believe it was in January or February 2008, it's there in the report, to discuss a mechanism by which the FARC could be given weapons. So these sponsorship, yeah, in cash or in kind, that was the deal. Either they would get the money directly or they would be paid weapons, given weapons instead of that money. And so these conversations were very serious, they were progressing rapidly, but then on the 1st of March, Reyes was killed. And we don't know what happened after that in any detail, but I believe everything changed as regards that plan.
Do you believe, so in saying that, do you believe then that the offer was made, but either the money or the weapons were not necessarily delivered?
I don't think they were delivered, and I think it would be very unlikely now, given the overall economic situation of the Venezuelan government and the political situation with respect to Colombia.
Lo digo aunque alguien se pueda molestar. La FARC y el ELN no son ningunos cuerpos terroristas, son ejércitos, verdaderos ejércitos.
There is a reference in the dossier to unproven suggestions that FARC may have undertaken assassination of Chavez's political opponents on behalf of the Venezuelan state. Although the report states that it could not be proved, that's a very grave suggestion, obviously.
Yeah, well,
do the documents point in that direction?
They do very strongly. If I just put this in context, the Venezuelan government was very unsettled by just how close the April 2002 came to succeeding. You remember the coup? Yeah, the Pedro Carmona Estanga coup. They realized that they couldn't rely on the armed forces to support them in the event of that kind of unrest. They were also very concerned that there might be a second coup or other attempts at destabilization through that year. And so they drew up something they called the contingency plan, which involved the mass mobilization of their own supporters, that is, the supporters of the government, and what would essentially be armed paramilitary forces to, in their words, attack, neutralize or liquidate opposition mobilization through sabotage and killings. And this security strategy was implemented by all sorts of elements within the Venezuelan government. We don't know whether Chavez personally knew of all the details or not, but what did happen is that a range of essentially paramilitary organizations came to the FARC during the rest of 2002 asking for and getting training in these kind of tactics. And beyond that, the DICIP, which is now called the SEBIN, one of the main Venezuelan intelligence services, came to the FARC in October 2002 and said they required experts in what they call pistoleo, in other words, shooting people with small arms.
That's all in here?
Yes, that's all in there. Making car bombs, experts in remote control detonation, this kind of thing. 3 or 4 people who would go to Caracas and carry out what they called actions on their behalf. And these operatives were then sent to Caracas. We're now getting to October, November 2002. And that's very clear from the archive. What isn't clear at all is whether the FARC actually did anything when they got there, and especially what specific actions they were involved in.
There seems to be, from what you say, some political logic in Chavez's association with the FARC. From his point of view, what was the benefit that he thought he could get by associating himself with FARC?
Absolutely. At his most expansive and optimistic moments, there was what might be described as an offensive logic to that, in the sense that Chavez was interested in helping the FARC to take power in Colombia. But perhaps for the majority of the time, and more commonly, what he wanted was to cultivate and develop the FARC as an asymmetric capability on which he could depend to defend himself against all kinds of threats which he perceived as threatening the survival of his regime.
Rafael Correa Delgado.
Sobre Rafael Correa, a acusação específica no dossiê do Instituto Estratégico é de que as Farc teriam doado $400 mil para a campanha presidencial dele.
Do you have any evidence that Correa himself was aware of that?
As part of the investigation, we also obtained testimony from a guerrilla who was in Ecuador in 2006. And this guerrilla reported during the second half of the year being the target of really sustained lobbying by Correa's campaign team. He had what he described as relatively frequent and intense contact with Ricardo Patiño, obviously now a minister in Correa's government. And then finally 3 telephone conversations with Correa himself. Now Patiño clearly was aware, according to the guerrilla, of why he was speaking to him at all, in that they were desperate for money. In the conversation with Correa, money was not mentioned, but Correa clearly showed an awareness of the state of relations between him and the FARC.
So obviously the FARC wanted to get some benefit out of that. Did they get any benefit? Are the links still there between Correa and the FARC?
No, they didn't really get the benefit, and this was the source of significant disappointment to them. By the middle of 2007, it was becoming clear to the FARC that they hadn't actually developed a strategic relationship with the Ecuadorian government. And what they certainly didn't have were territorial guarantees for refuge in Ecuador, akin to what they enjoyed in Venezuela.
No que se refere
Ecuador, akin to what they enjoyed in Venezuela.
No que se refere ao Brasil, na época da captura do material do guerrilheiro morto, surgiram indicações de simpatias políticas do PT pelas Farc e esforços do governo Lula de não prejudicar Chávez. O analista e principal editor do dossiê do Instituto Estratégico, James Lockhart Smith, especializado em América Latina, explica que o material bruto é muito vasto e contém outras referências ao Brasil, sobretudo como território para a movimentação de gente e dinheiro das Farc.
I wouldn't like to get into any excessive details about that. The territory was very important. Brazil, simply because of its location, was an important staging post for the movement of FARC operatives around Latin America.
Money.
Yeah, and money. The FARC took money from, they took a cut of the revenue from a kidnap that was carried out in Paraguay in 2001, and that money was actually stored in Brazil, and then subsequently shifted from Brazil back to Colombia.